A very good morning to all my dear students. Once again, I welcome you for the second session of the revisionary session, that is Audit and the Auditors. So we have already started this chapter of auditing. We have understood who is an auditor, who is going to come and check our books of accounts. Today, we will be discussing further. We have done section 139, 140 and 141 was also briefly discussed. So as always, before proceeding further, I'll be asking you certain questions just to find out how much you have revised. And then we will be proceeding ahead towards section 142. So section 140, 139 was completely done in the previous session, children. Good morning, all of you. Good morning, Om Krishnam, Swati, Khushbu, Ritu. Good morning, children, and all those who are with us on the portal also. A very good morning to all of you, dear students. So I hope you have revised whatever we have discussed in the previous class, and now we're going to proceed further. So student section 139 was completely discussed in the previous class, how the auditor is appointed, how the first auditor appointments take place, 120 days in case of normal companies, and 190 days were given to the 150 days were given to the government company for the appointment of the auditor. We have discussed the removal and resignation of the auditor. So my first question of test to the class is, in which form, which is the form number that we have to submit by the company for the appointment of the auditor? What is the name of the form that we need to submit when you're appointing the auditor? Is it ADT 3, 4, 5 or ADT 1? So it's clearly written over here, company shall within 15 days of the appointment of the auditor, ADT 1, absolutely correct. Ritu, Swati, Om Krishnam, all of you have given the correct answer. Wonderful students. So ADT 1 form, yes, Khushbu, that's correct. Vijay Lakshmi. So ADT 1 form has to be given for appointment of the auditor, and within how many days it has to be given? It has to be given within 15 days of the appointment of the auditor. The registrar needs to be informed about everything. So even about the auditor's appointment, information has to be sent to him. After that, we have discussed what are the companies who are going to appoint the auditors, what about the audit committee. Also, we have done the discussion, cooling period. So what is the cooling period for an individual to be appointed as an auditor? If an individual is appointed as an auditor for a term of 3 years, for how long he can continue the appointment as an auditor? So the total term that is allowed is 5 consecutive years. If you have been appointed for 3 years, that means now you need to resign after 3 years and your fresh appointment will take place after the cooling period of 5 years. Swati says, ma'am, both for individual and firm, it is 5 consecutive years. No, Swati. For audit firm, we have 5 consecutive years, again 5 consecutive years. So total 10 consecutive years for the audit firm. For an individual, the cooling period, yes. The cooling period for both the individual, absolutely correct. It is 5 years. So individual is appointed for 5 years. For 5 years, it goes cooling period. Then another 5 years, fresh appointment. For the audit firm, 5 years it is appointed as an auditor, then reappointment for next 5 years, then cooling period of 5 years, and then fresh appointment for 5 years. Very good. So all my students have revised 139 very clearly. We have discussed rule number 3 as well as rule number 6 for the rotation of the auditors. Now there was a topic related to the removal of the auditor and the resignation of the auditor. So my next question to the class is, the form number ADT2 is used for the removal of the auditor or the resignation of the auditor. Form number ADT2 is used for the removal of the auditor or the resignation of the auditor. Everyone needs to answer this thing. LCLT form, somebody who was asking, it is basically the application that was made to the tribunal for changing the audits. So ADT are the forms, that is the audit forms that needs to be submitted. One for the appointment of the auditor, and form number removal of the auditor is ADT2. Absolutely correct. Swati, Om Krishnam, Ritu, all of you have given the correct answer. ADT2 is used for the removal of the auditor and for the resignation of the auditor, which form is used. when the notice is given for the resignation of the auditor, which form is being used? ADT3, absolutely correct. When the auditor is resigning on his own, he submits ADT3 form. And when the notice needs to be sent to him for the removal, then ADT2 form is used. Is that correct? Now, children, we have discussed all these three forms also, and we have discussed the appointment of the auditor. 139, 140 was completely done. We have started with section 141. So the topics that we have done in section 141 specifically talks about eligibility, qualification, and disqualification of an auditor. So a person who is a chartered accountant, but he's not having a certificate of practice and he's in full-time employment working with a bank, can he be appointed as an auditor as per section 141 of the Companies Act 2013? Tell me. Can we appoint a CA who is not having a COP, certificate of practice? He's working as a banker. No, ma'am, he cannot be appointed because he's disqualified to be appointed as an auditor under clause G. 141 का कौन सा clause है? Section, subsection 141, subsection 3, clause J, where a person who is in full-time employment elsewhere. Also, he's not having a certificate of practice. So let's briefly discuss all these points. Number one, he has to be a CA in practice. Even the firm where majority of the partners are practicing in India, they can be qualified by their firm's name, not by as an individual partner. But if I am a partner in an audit firm, that audit firm, if I'm a CA in practice, then the audit firm can also be appointed as an auditor. But who can sign the audit? Only because of, yes, Khushbu, because of full-time employment. So that was clause J that we have discussed, subsection 3, clause J. So signing of the appointment or signing has to be done by a chartered accountant himself, he can sign on behalf of the firm. So now we are discussing 141 subsection 3, all the points of disqualification of the auditor. So body corporate cannot be appointed as the auditor, but can the LLP be appointed as the auditor? Can LLP be appointed as the auditor, children? Yes or no? So audit firm can be appointed, and yes, ma'am, limited liability partnership can also be appointed as the auditor of the firm. If you are an employee of the company, so I am Harleen Kaur, CA Harleen Kaur, and I'm working with ABC Limited. So ABC Limited said that you are ourselves, our employee. Why don't you only audit our accounts? So can I, as an employee of the company, be appointed as the statutory auditor or any auditor or internal auditor of ABC Limited? Excellent answer. No, ma'am. Employee and officer cannot be appointed as the auditor. Very good. And if a person who is a partner or employment, then also he cannot be appointed. If I am holding any kind of securities or interest in ABC Limited or its subsidiary PQR Limited or its holding company, then also I cannot be appointed as an auditor. One is I'm employee. So employee wala khatam ho gaya. Now I'm not an employee, but I'm holding certain interest or security in your company. Then also I cannot be appointed. But if my relative is holding interest in your company, which is up till rupees 80,000 of the face value, then can I be appointed as an auditor? If I am a person, I'm not holding any security, but my relative is holding security of the face value of 80,000 in your company, can I be appointed as an auditor? Am I disqualified under clause D? No, ma'am. Then you can be appointed as an auditor because there is a limit up till face value of rupees 1 lakh acceptable. Excellent answer, Swati, Kushi, Om, Krishna, Mritu, all of you. I'm so happy, children, that you have revised you have done the task so well. You have done your revision so nicely. So everything is on your tips now, huh? So that is how you get to learn law when you read it again and again. You revise it. Teacher is asking you questions. You revert back. So automatically the brain keeps on moving and working. That's why I keep telling every one of you that these revisionary classes are very, very important. Children, you are so blessed that ICAI is making so much effort for a teacher to reach at different places so that you can understand, you can revise. So you as chartered accountant student should also make full utilization of this time, that the opportunity that is being given to you to revise whatever we are doing in the class. All right. So if I say the face value up till rupees 1 lakh, then also, ma'am, we are not disqualified. Up till 1 lakh, you're not disqualified. Over and above, if the relative at any time during the process of being an auditor, if he holds more than rupees 1 lakh, then what will happen? You immediately get disqualified or any time period can be given. What will happen? Let me test your knowledge. Will you be giving any time period? Okay, Ritu, that's correct. If you exceed the value, then you're not appointed as an auditor. So now what will happen? Deemed vacancy will occur or not? No, ma'am. 60 days will be given to take corrective action. Excellent, Swati. Very good. So 60 days will be given to take a corrective action. Ritu has also answered the same. So now within 60 days, either you reduce your holding or the person will be said to be a deemed casual vacancy set to be created. Means now the partner will become disqualified as an auditor. At the same time, we have discussed that if you're indebted to the company, आपने company को कोई उधार दिया हुआ है in excess of 5 lakhs or any guarantee has been given in excess of 1 lakh, then also you're disqualified. You cannot be appointed as an auditor. Now, my next question to my class is, if ABC Limited is appointing ABC Associates as the auditor, but they have certain business connections with their subsidiary company, can ABC Associates appointed as an auditor? No, ma'am, is the correct answer. Do we have any exception to this rule? Do we have any exception? What kind of business? Is every kind of business connection leading us to disqualification? The answer is no. There are two exceptions. Number one, if you're providing any professional services or the transactions that you're doing with the company is at arm's length price. So when you go to CA final, you learn about transfer pricing. In transfer pricing, we tell you in detail about the arm's length price. As of now, you don't have to go into much details of what is arm's length price, but it is a kind of a differentiation kind of word given. That is that you're having at a distance relationship, a business connection. So if you're having the transactions in the ordinary course of business and it is at arm's length price, and the transactions are in the nature of professional services, then it will not be considered as business connection. Then you can be appointed as an auditor. Are you clear, all of you? See, everyone has just answered no, ma'am. Uske baad exception, I have asked, no one have answered. So that means since we have not discussed this point at the previous class, so you don't recall. So now I'm telling you that there are two exceptions. Number one, that in the ordinary course of business, if you're giving any services at arm's length, then you're not disqualified. And if you're giving any professional services, then you're not disqualified. Is that clear, children? All right. After that, any person, we have discussed all these points of relative and director. If my relative is working as a director in your company, can I be appointed as an auditor? No, ma'am, I cannot be appointed as an auditor if my relative is a director, KMP, anything in your company. Director as defined under 2 clause 34, KMP as defined under 2 clause 51. जहां जहां पे ये पॉइंट्स रेफरेंस आते हैं ना, जस्ट क्विकली क्लोज योर आईज एंड गो टू चैप्टर नंबर 1 preliminary. See if you remember the definitions. KMP definitions, director definition, MD definition, all the definitions you have done in chapter 1. So keep revising it. अब यहाँ reference आया, keep checking your knowledge whether I remember or not. CEO, CFO, MD, whatever details were given over there, KMP, you should remember it. Why you need to remember? Because examiner might use the word KMP or he might use the word, what is the definition of KMP? He might say that a person who is relative is a CEO of a company. Then you have to give this to disqualification of 141 subsection 3 clause I. Okay? It might not be possible for all of you to learn the clauses, but try learning it because audit chapter becomes very interesting if you learn it in the subsections and clauses also. Because audit chapter is very simple. It's just that it involves too much of learning. Today we'll be discussing about its powers and duties also, the contents of the audit report also. है बहुत आसान है, but सिर्फ learning की methodology अगर आप adopt कर लो, then the things become very, very simple. Now, full-time employment also has a word that a person or a partner holding appointment as an auditor, but that date of appointment, you should not be holding audit of more than 20 companies. Now, I, as an individual having a certificate of practice, for how many companies I can be appointed as an auditor? Tell me. I can audit how many companies? You can be holding appointment of an auditor up till number of companies is 20 companies, not rupees, children. 20 companies. I cannot be an auditor of more than 20 companies. But if there are 4 partners, A, B, C, D. So each individual can have audit of 20 companies. So how many? Very good, Swati. How many companies we can audit together? So 4 partners, 4 into 20, 80 companies, we can do the audit of 80 companies. On the basis of the same, let's do a very, very interesting case study from the study material, which I want to do with you. So here is a partner who is holding the appointment. He shall not be holding more than 20 companies. But this limit of 20 companies, OPC small companies, private companies having share capital less than 100 crore shall be excluded. Means they are not included in this limit of 20 companies. So what are the companies which are not included in the limit of 20 companies? Quickly tell me, children. OPC, small companies and private companies having paid up share capital less than 100 crores, they're not included. Means you don't need to include them in the ceiling limit of 20. So if I'm doing audit of 20 companies and one OPC also, then it is fine if it is 21st company because it is not counted in the limit of 20 companies. It is applicable only to the private companies. They have not committed a default under 137 and 92, which we have done in the MGT chapter. Before appointment, company must obtain a certificate that the appointment will not result in excess of the holding. So you have to get the certificate that within 141 clause 3, clause G, subsection 3, clause G, your limit is not exceeding. This is your limit where you're giving the guarantee of 1 lakh. It shall not be exceeding 1 lakh rupees. Otherwise, you will be disqualified. Okay. Now, this is the case. ABC company is an audit firm having partners A, B, and C. Mr. A, B, and C are holding appointment of the auditors 4, 6, and 10. How many maximum number of auditors remaining in the name of ABC and company? So ABC company is having 3 people as the auditors, as partners, and they're having A is doing 4 audits, B is doing 6 audits, C is doing 10 audits. How many maximum number of audits they can first of audit? 20. So 20 they are already doing. What do you think now? They will be disqualified? No, ma'am. They can take the audit of 60 companies. So 20 per person, per partner. A can hold 20, B can hold 20, C can hold 20. So the first part of the question of the answer goes 60 companies is the correct answer. Maximum 60. Still 40 you're saying. So maximum 60 on Krishnam, Swati, Ritu is the correct answer. So Ritu, what you have written in the answer, that is the second part of the question. Now this is where you have to be very, very careful. What is the examiner asking you? What is the examiner asking you and what are you answering back? That really makes a difference. So आपको आता है, but आपने जल्दबाजी में second वाले का answer कर दिया. We are doing the first part. So be very, very careful in the exams, children. So first part is 60 audits. You can do maximum 60 companies. Now tell me maximum number of audits that are remaining. So 4 you have, 16 you can do. 6 you already have, 14 you can do. 10 you already have, 10 you can do. So this is how your maximum capacity 20 audits, 40 still they can do. So the maximum is 60. And this is the second part of the answers. They can do 16, 14 and 10 more audits. Everyone is clear upon this question. Any doubt? Each individual get maximum audits. That is absolutely correct. Anyone having any doubts on this? Okay, clear. Good. Let's move ahead. If a person is an auditor of a company, Mr. A is an auditor of the company and he has been convicted for any offense which involves fraud, then for how many periods he cannot be appointed as an auditor? If under section 141, we are talking about the disqualifications, if he's a person who has been put into behind the bars in jail, for how many years he will be disqualified? 10 years. Absolutely correct. 10 years must have been passed means for 10 years he cannot be appointed as the auditors. And look at this assumption, children. Did you read this? It has been assumed that the companies given are not OPC dominant small companies and private companies. Why have they written this? If I am the auditor of a company, I am having audit of 20 companies, including 5 OPCs. Then how many companies I can still audit more? If I am the auditor of 20, I'm already having the audit of 20 companies, which includes 5 OPC companies. Then how many, then have I crossed the limit or I still have the opportunity to audit any more companies? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, or how many? Very good, Swati. So I can still audit 5 more companies because OPC, dormant companies and private company having less than 100 crore capitals is not counted in the limit of 20. So on 5 companies ko tumne count hi nahi kara. That means I'm having 15 audits right now. So I can still have 5 audit companies more. Is that clear, children? And last clause M says if person is rendering any of the services under 144 to the company or to its holding company or subsidiary company. So if you are the auditor and you're doing actuarial services to your subsidiary company, can you be appointed as an auditor? And if you say no, ma'am, then why you can't be appointed as an auditor? Why you can't be appointed? You have to give me the reason. See, children, when we do it in the same way, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, it's fine. You're learning it. But if you give me the reason, that means now it has been fed over here. Now you are never ever going to. So tell me, if an auditor is providing actuarial services to subsidiary company, can he be appointed as an auditor? Is he disqualified under 141? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? And if you say why, then you have to give me the answer why. Is he disqualified or he can still be working as an auditor? Who is giving the correct answer? Yes, Swati. Disqualified under section 141 clause M, you are saying. So it is 141 subsection 3 clause M. Why he is disqualified? Not because of 141 simply alone, children, because he is rendering a services given under section 144. This is what I'm trying to explain you. आप ऑडिटर हो बट अगर आप 144 सेक्शन वाली सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर रहे हो देन यू गेट डिस्क्वालिफाइड अंडर 140. So for understanding this point, we need to understand, ma'am, what is section 144? We don't know. We have not done that. So first tell us what is section 144. Section 144 includes certain services which cannot be provided by an auditor. Let's refer to my presentation over here. Section 144, we are going to do these brief points from 144 and then we will go back again to the study material so that we can cover each and every point in detail from study notes. So 144 specifically tells you that the auditor should not be providing these certain services, whether directly or indirectly. What is the meaning of this word, whether directly or indirectly? I, as an auditor, I am your auditor of your company and I'm also doing bookkeeping services. Bookkeeping services, what is that? Class 11, 12, first day, first chapter, accounting chapters, you have understood what is accounting, bookkeeping services. You're preparing of the general, leisure, subsidiary books, bookkeeping services. All right. So how the books are being maintained, how the accounting entries are being maintained, how the journal entries have been passed, how the booking of the entries have been done into leisures, everything. If I am only giving you these services, can I be appointed as in your auditor? So law says no, 144 may specific services have been prohibited that you cannot. Yes, recording of transactions as an accountant. So if you're rendering such services, then you cannot be appointed as an auditor. So auditor appointed shall provide to the company only such services which are approved by board of directors or the audit committee. Either board of directors or audit committee will decide that these are the respective services that you're going to give us as an auditor. But it will not include the following services rendered directly or indirectly. First, let us understand the word directly or indirectly. I am an auditor and my relative is being appointed as an accountant in your company. Will I be disqualified under 141? So my relative is indirectly, I'm providing the services. Somebody through my relation is providing. So this is what is the meaning of the word directly or indirectly. It is written in your study material. Directly or indirectly includes individual, himself, relatives, or the persons connected in which you have a significant influence. So even in the companies in which you're having a significant influence, you're providing these services, again, you become disqualified. Means 144 specifically tells you that these are the services which you cannot render as an auditor. Is that clear? So indirectly means either through a relative or a partner who is rendering, or the audit firm, his partner is rendering these kind of services. You cannot render these services if you're appointed as an auditor. So what are these services, ma'am? Let us learn it. Accounting, you all know recording of the transaction is known as bookkeeping services. I means internal audit. D, designing and implementation of financial information system. So you have designed the financial information system, how the information has to be uploaded in the accounting entries and how the financial information will flow further in the balance sheet and profit and loss account. If any kind of system has been implemented by you, then you cannot be appointed as an auditor of that company. Actuarial services means valuation in case of an insurance and other kind of valuation when you do, that is a part of actuarial services. Investment advisory services. Your auditor cannot be giving you investment advisory services. You have to hire consultants separately for these kind of services. But then if you're giving such services, you cannot be the auditor of that company. Because you are only telling the company where to invest and what to do, and then you are only going and checking the work also. What is the role of the auditor? Kya karta hai auditor? Auditor comes and checks whether your books of accounts have been properly prepared or not, whether your financial statements are in compliance with the accounting standards or not. Now, if I am only the person who is working as an accountant in your company, I am only preparing those accounts, and then I only come and check my work. It will not make sense. Why will I try to find mistakes in my own work? So your independence of the work has to be there. There should not be duplication of work. I told you children last time also, Companies Act का chapter 10 audit पढ़ते पढ़ते हम second group की तरफ जा रहे हैं, auditing की तरफ. So we are very basics we are covering. So this is the base of your auditing that you're going to study in detail, how the audit is done in the chapter of auditings. All right. So you cannot provide these services if you're an auditor. Number one, accounting, bookkeeping, internal audit, designing of the financial information system, actuarial services. Then comes your investment advisory or investment banking. So investments are related to investment banking, investment advisory. Outsourced financial services भी नहीं render कर सकते. Okay, you have outsourced me the financial services work. So again, outsource का. You have hired somebody, you're a company ABC Limited, and they have hired somebody to outsource the work of financial services, and then that person only is appointed as an auditor. So again, duplication of work. That person only prepared your accounts as an outsourced person, and now he is only auditing your accounts. So that is prohibited under 144. Management services. So investment advisory, investment banking, and management. इकट्ठा learn हो जाएगा. Any other kind of services as may be prescribed. So as may be prescribed is the word which goes in the interpretation of statutes, means anything is still open which law wants to include. Any other thing which can be included, they have left the option for this point. So try learning these of the kind of services. Exact question can come that what are the services which the auditor cannot provide? If you're an auditor of a company, what are the services which straight away 4 marks question? Try to remember at least 7 to 8 points so that you can write it down. 6 marks question comes, all of the points have to be written. And what important point will be there? Apart from the points, what does the examiner expect you to write? Please don't forget to write this word directly or indirectly. You are law students, professionalism दिखना चाहिए. हमें पता है directly भी नहीं हो सकता, indirectly. So if we know, we have to write. So you have to write that these are the services which will not be provided either directly or indirectly. Number one, to the company or its holding or subsidiary. You forgot to give the definitions of directly relatives. It's okay. You don't need to give the definition. If they have not asked it. If the simple question comes that please tell us what kind of services not to be provided, then write this word directly, indirectly, company, holding, subsidiary, and give this services. They ask you how indirectly you cannot hold it, then give the definition of individual के case में relative, connected person in which you have significant influence, and firm के case में partner, subsidiary, associates in which the partner is having significant influence. Then you have to give the definition of that relative and directly, indirectly. Is that clear? Now, you're not required to give these services, but can you be appointed as GST or tax auditor? My question to all of you. Can a statutory auditor, ma'am, you told us statutory auditor is not going to give us bookkeeping, accounting services, designing of the financial information management services. ये सब नहीं देना. But can my statutory auditor be my GST auditor and tax auditor also? Can he do my tax audit? That is an audit service that definitely you can provide. I told you in case of remuneration, remunerations might be separate for that work. Remuneration क्या होता है 142 में हम पढ़ेंगे अभी salary जो मुझे पैसा मिलना है काम करने. So that might be separate from a statutory audit work and for the tax audit work, but you are not prohibited from providing a tax audit and GST audit service. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am. Tax audit is acceptable. Khushbu says no, Khushbu. So yes is the correct answer. You can still be appointed. So you can write down this point. A statutory auditor, these are the services, first ऐसे लिखो notes में. These are the services which the auditor cannot provide under section 144. These are the services which the auditor cannot provide under section 144. However, statutory auditor can be appointed as an GST auditor or a tax auditor. Statutory auditor can be appointed as a GST auditor or tax auditor. However, the remuneration will be different for different services, but that is not prohibited. Now, the second question is, can the statutory auditor be appointed as the cost auditor also? Can he be appointed as the cost auditor? So, right, arrow banakar, just write it down. No, ma'am, is the correct answer. Wonderful. So many no haves come up immediately. What about the students with us on the portal? Devyanshi Garg. Okay. So no cost auditor, he cannot be appointed as cost auditor. So just mark an arrow and write for cost audit, you have to refer to section 148. Section 148 is going, yes, cost auditor only by ICAI. Very nice, Vapi. So Institute of Cost and Work Accountants of India will provide for the cost auditor. Section 148 has to be referred whenever we are talking about the cost auditor in Companies Act. Is that clear, everyone? Let's move to section number 142 now. We have revised 139, 140, 141. We have completed whatever was left in 141. And we have also done section 144 because क्योंकि 141 से 144 में इसलिए जाना पड़ता है because point number M. So the last point of 141 was that anytime you incur this disqualifications given in subsection 3, then what will happen? Then deemed casual vacancy will happen. What happens when casual vacancy occurs, children? Who is going to fill the casual vacancy? If casual vacancy happens under section 141 clause, the subsection 3, if any of the disqualification occurs, you told me last time also, ma'am, we know that deemed casual vacancy happens, then the board of directors within 30 days have to intimate about who is the new auditor appointed, and within 3 months of the approval of the board, shareholders will pass the ordinary resolution. 30 days वाला याद रखना है. Om Krishnam Swati, excellent, and 3 months में approval pass कर OR में resolution pass हो जाएगी general. Is that clear, everyone? Casual vacancy has to be filled within how many days? Within 30 days by board of directors. Clear? Any doubts still here, children? All right. Now let's move to section number 142. That is remuneration. What is remuneration? The salary that you need to pay to the auditors. So the subsequent auditors, the remuneration needs to be determined by the company in general meeting in such manner as the general meeting. So however the shareholders decide, who will decide the salary? The first auditors, the salary is to be decided by board of directors. The remuneration needs to be fixed by board of directors. And for the subsequent auditors, shareholders will decide the meeting. So you can write down in your notes, for the first auditor, board of directors will decide. For the first auditors, board of directors will decide the remuneration. MCQ can come. For the subsequent auditors, shareholders will decide the remuneration in the general meeting. And what all is included and excluded? The components are remuneration shall be in addition to the fees that you are paying to the auditor. So it shall be whatever he is eating, whatever work he's doing for tax audit separately, it needs to be given to him. Expenses incurred in connection with the audit, out-of-pocket expenses incurred. So he had to go was taking out certain printouts, he had to go to the market and visiting the client's place or any kind of out-of-pocket expenses means apne se jo kharcha kara hai, reimbursement has to be given for that audits, any other facility extended by him, any other work that he has done. However, you will not include the remuneration paid to him. You will not include the remuneration paid to him for any other service at the request of the company. So for tax audit, if you're paying, that is not included as a part of remuneration. So start audit ke liye aap uska khana, peena, kharcha, fuel and everything that ever he is spending from his pockets needs to be paid. And for any other services like tax audit, separate things needs to be paid to him. Yes, Khushbu, it is as per this. So that remuneration that we are talking about in the shareholders in the general meeting, that is for the subsequent audits. For the first auditors, board of directors are going to fix the remuneration. Is that clear, everyone? Now here I want to ask you one thing. ABC Limited has hired Mr. A as an auditor and they have signed the engagement letter, that is audit engagement letter, that you are going to audit our books of accounts. But they said that the fees will be decided later on. They have not discussed the remuneration of the fees. Can you say this kind of engagement letter where the fees has not been fixed is a valid engagement letter or not? So you have signed a valid engagement letter with an auditor and the auditor has agreed to provide you the services. See, it is clearly written. It is fixed by the board. It is fixed by the company. General meeting means shareholders. So if the engagement letter has been made, will it be a valid engagement letter? Yes or no? What is the answer given by all of you? Invalid. Okay, all of you are saying, ma'am, it becomes invalid. Answer is absolutely incorrect, children. The engagement letter still remains valid. So let us discuss example number 11. That means you have not read this. SHRD Private Limited is engaged in the business of software and consultancy, and the company is having annual turnover for the good. But the profits are not good as compared to the industry standard. So they appointed a statutory auditor at the board meeting. Now remuneration has not been finalized. 31st March 2024. Now this information that they have given is just a mere information. What is the meaning of mere information? Just a small story they have told you. It has nothing to do with the remuneration part. They have just told you that now we need to appoint the stat audit, and stat auditor has been appointed and remuneration has not been finalized. Statutory auditor completed the engagement formalities, including the engagement letter was signed between the company and auditors, and they said that it was signed without fees. That is the clause that the fees to be mutually decided. Please highlight this point as a very, very important. In this situation, engagement letter is still valid. जहां पे हमने कह दिया कि हम आज साइन कर रहे हैं बट म्यूचुअली फीस डिसाइड करेंगे लेटर ऑन, इट इज अ वैलिड एंगेजमेंट लेटर. So sometimes the points are given within the section, sometimes the points are given in the examples. Study makes sure to cover everything. That's why I keep telling you, paper is going to come from this very book only. You will think that where it was written, your engagement letter is valid. It is written in example number 11. They have demonstrated it. They have drawn a story, an example for you. That then, so that's where at the side of example number 11, you can write it down, children, that the engagement letter that is signed without stating the fees, engagement letter that is signed without stating the fees, which is to be decided mutually later on, then such engagement letter is a valid engagement. Then such engagement letter is still a valid engagement letter. Is that clear, everyone? Everyone is clear about this point? So, any doubts still here? Because I want to do one more section with you, section 145, and then we'll head towards the break. 144 is very much clear to all of you. Okay. Now let's discuss section 145. So after 144, we have done, we are left with 143. Don't worry, 143 is very, very huge. So I want to wait for that. 145 tells you auditors signing the audit report. So who will sign the audit report? Who is going to sign the audit report? The auditor is going to sign, a chartered accountant. You all future CAs, buddies, are going to sign the audit reports if you go into practice. So a chartered accountant is going to sign the audit report. But what is section 145 telling you? Auditor to sign the audit report as well as other documents, etc. means what else they're going to sign. So the person who is appointed as an auditor will certify and sign other documents of the company as per the provisions of 141 subsection 2. That is, in case of the firm, LLP is appointed, only the partners and the chartered accountants are authorized to sign. So we very well know that CAs are appointed and now firm in which, so LLP might have other partners also who are not CAs. So only the chartered accountants who are the partners will be authorized to act and sign for the behalf of firm. And if any qualification observation, now children, what is the work of the auditor? Let me tell you. How an auditor goes and work, auditor is going to ask for all the, I told you in the last class also, there is a term known as vouching and verification. Auditor will come and they will ask you that, show me your balance sheet and financial statements. You will hold the balance sheet, profit and loss account. You have to see each and every item has been correctly booked in the books of account. So all the ledgers, all the books of accounts are at the request of the auditor. Company will be providing you these kind of documents and you have to do all the verification. Accounting standards apply हुए हैं या नहीं हुए हैं, financial statements have been properly made or not, internal controls are in place or not, whatever the systems, rules and regulations the companies have planned, is it actually happening? This is all that they're going to study from these books of accounts. This is the role of a chartered accountant, I'm telling you. This is what as you as a CA are going to do when you go to audit the books of accounts. Now, if you find while doing all this nitty-gritty and verifications and you raise certain suspicions also, because that's why when we teach you about Indian partnership, we tell you that you as a partner should not be raising suspicion among yourself. When you raise suspicion means you're an auditor. So in Indian partnership, we have learned that we as auditors, we don't have to inspect each other. But when we as an auditor go and audit the books of accounts of a company, then we have to vouch these things. Then a suspicion can be raised. So say, for example, you have seen that the company is doing a kind of a business out of which it is not generating too much of revenue. Say a company ABC Limited, it has invested huge amount of crores in a particular kind of investment, but they're not getting good returns out of that. And even a lot of expenditure is being done for that kind of investment. So that means this investment is adversely affecting my business. मुझे नुकसान हो रहा है इस चीज. So while conducting the audit, while vouching all the transactions, if the auditor come across any such thing that is adversely affecting the functioning of the business, then they need to read it out in the general meeting. Anyone can come and inspect that they can come and see that what is this things that the company has done. Maybe the company has not done intentionally anything wrong, but you as an auditor, it is your responsibility. तभी तो आपको hire करे कि आप आइए and देखिए कि हमारी functioning proper हो रही है या नहीं. So if you as an auditor, you're visiting any company and you find any adverse effect, any qualification on the financial transaction, qualification का मतलब होता है now you're going to qualify your audit. So again, when you go and do your auditing, chapter number 3, 4, you'll be studying about how you qualify an audit report. So there is some mistakes that you have found. Everything you write in your auditor's report, whatever observations you have found. So when you as small babies, you go as articles and you learn the auditing, we give you a piece of paper also and we ask the future chartered accountants कि आप अपनी audit observations लिखो so that you practice how you're going to write it in the major audit report. So audit report is a huge thing which is made at the end of the audit, but that is how you learn. So you should always keep writing down your observations as a piece of paper also, so that your learning becomes very, very thorough during the audit process. All right. So now what you have to do is, if you have find any such things which a qualification, which you need to qualify or comment on the financial transaction, then such adverse functioning wala agar koi point hota hai na, that you are mentioning in your audit report, you have to read it out before the company in the general meeting, and any member can come and inspect it. They can come and see the papers. Okay, fine, we have made such kind of investment and it is not fruitful. Then the company should think about how the corrective actions have to be taken in this very case. Is that clear, children? Everyone clear? Khushbu, Om Krishnam, Swati, good. Yes, Swati, audit report, whatever points that you have written is absolutely correct. Crystal clear, ma'am. Thank you, Ritu. I'm so glad everything is clear to you. And I also enjoy telling you these small examples of your articleship, because that is something that you're going to do in your future also. So audit is actually a very practical kind of subject, which you're actually going to see what is happening once you join your internship also. Okay, so what we have to remember and how to sign the audit report. Number one, that it has to be certified by the persons mentioned under 141 subsection 2 ka matlab hai, if NLP, only the chartered accountants in practice are going to sign it. Number two, any qualification observations you find which has an adverse effect on the functioning of the business, it has to be read out in the general meeting and it shall be kept open for inspection. Keep marking down all these points. Everything summary is there in the notes. You can refer to it also. Now, what is section 146 telling you? Section 146 is auditors to attend general meeting. Auditors also need to attend. Yes, sometimes auditors also come and attend the general meeting. You have to serve a notice of general meeting. Remember, notices that you serve, 21 days notice to serving for the general meeting. So this notice related to general meeting shall also be sent to the auditor. Auditor either can himself come and attend or through his authorized representative. Also, the auditor has the right to be heard on business which concerns him as an auditor. So if he wants to say something, he shall be given the opportunity. Like if you have invited me as an auditor, I am attending your general meeting. So the shareholders, directors are sitting and I want to say something related to this business. I should also be given the opportunity to speak. So right to be heard means उसको भी सुनवाई का मौका देना चाहिए for all the business which is concerning, for the business for which you have been appointed as an auditor, not for any other extra matters, but for the business which concerning you have been appointed as an auditor, he should be given the opportunity to speak. Is that clear, children? So now we are going to do this. Let's take a small break here. So we are left with section 143, 147. First, we'll do the punishment, then 143 and 148 tentative. Let's take a small break here. students? So any doubts till section number 145, except 143 that we have done? Okay, so no doubts. So now let's proceed further to section number 143. What does section 143 tells us, children? After 143, we'll come to this contravention. Section 143 is very, very huge. But at the same time, it's very, very simple and very interesting. So I'm going to simplify it for all of you so that you can learn it with me only in the class and you don't have to flip through the pages. Although you must have done it once, so we are doing a quick revision only. So let's make this revision very, very interactive. So number one thing we have to discuss is the powers and duties of the auditors. Now, this powers and duties means what are the rights available to the auditor? What is his authority? I told you for what the auditor is appointed, he's going to come and check your books of accounts. But now 143 is going to elaborate on whatever small discussion that we have done. Now we will be understanding each and every point in detail. How the auditor is appointed, we have discussed. He can be removed or resigned also, we have discussed. Who is qualified, who is disqualified, we have discussed. What will be his remuneration, how he's going to sign the audit report and tell the comments. Now we are discussing what are his powers and duties. So powers, first of all, says every auditor has the power to access the books of account. So that means I'm an auditor of ABC Limited, and at any time means during the business hours, at all the times I can go and check the books of accounts. I can ask for the vouchers, which are kept whether at the registered office or any other place. So I went as an auditor of ABC Limited, and the accountant over there told me that, ma'am, Sector 69, Chandigarh, this is the place where I'm auditing. So we have the documents at this place, but other documents are lying at branch office, which is in Delhi. Do I have the access to the books of accounts which are lying in Delhi also? Yes or no? Or I should only check which are lying at the registered office? Absolutely correct. All of you have given the correct answer. Yes, ma'am, I can ask for the books of accounts which are lying in branch office also or any other. Because it says you can, kabhi bhi you can ask for it. You can come and check the books of accounts at any time. Also, can I inquire about the things? For example, there is an entry in the P&L account which I'm not able to verify from the vouchings, from the vouchers that have been given to me. So can I ask the officers, how did you book this entry? Can you show me the supporting document? So for my performance of duty as an auditor, whatever is required to be done, I can do that. I can seek information. I can ask for explanations. And also I have the access to the books of accounts of subsidiaries and associates only for the consolidation of financial statement. Now, you have been appointed as an auditor of ABC Limited does not mean that you have to go to the subsidiary of ABC Limited and also see how they are functioning. You don't have to peep up in the associates of ABC Limited, how they're functioning. But for whatever data is required for consolidation, what is consolidation? Consolidated financial statements are prepared, CFS. Remember, we have done it when we were just discussing MGT. So whatever the requirements for the consolidation of financial statements, even in accounts of companies, you would have studied about it. So whatever consolidation you're doing, so for related to that, you can ask for the information of the records of subsidiaries and associates of. Have you understood these are the powers of the auditors to access the books of accounts all the time at the registered office and any other place? Also, you can ask for the information, whatever is required, and also you can have the records access for the subsidiaries and associates only related to the consolidation of financial statements. All right, matters to inquire. Now, what all inquiry can you raise? Now, very important 6 points we're going to understand. What are the matters of inquiry? A, B, C, D, E, F. So these are the 6 points where you can inquire. Means आप क्या information explanation मांग सकते हो? What are the things that you need to check? The auditor shall inquire into the following matters, namely, number 1, Number one is related to loans and advances. So what does it say is you have to keep marking down the headings, whatever points we're doing. I will be giving you small headings so that you can remember those headings. So the first heading is loans and advances. Have you given any loans and advances to the outsiders? And if you have given it, are they properly secured? Have you given any security for that? Have you taken any security? If you are giving loans, have you taken any security? So if you have given any loans and advances to the outsiders, and have you taken proper security for that? I hope there is no term which is prejudicial to the interest of the company. कुछ ऐसा तो नहीं है जो company के लिए खतरा हो सकता है. So you have to inquire in these matters. What are the loans and advances given by the company and whether they have been properly secured, and no matter shall be prejudicial to the interest of the company, means it shall not be affecting the interest of the company. And if any company has given loan to directors and they say that I will not charge interest, that means this is prejudicial to the interest of the company. So these kind of transactions have to be very nicely and detailed discussion has to be done with the auditor. Auditor should check out if there are any loans given to the directors and they're not charging interest. Why are you not charging interest? Director should not be your relative whom you're giving the loans and advances. So all these kind of things, prejudicial means you have to see that it should not be affecting the company's interest. Next point is transactions which are represented merely by book entries. So second point is book entries. What is the meaning of book entries? Means if you're just affecting the entries, but you're not actually doing it. For example, share capital brought in by the company. So the entry should be cash account debited to share capital. But actually, you have not received any cash. So that means you're just making the book entries. You're not actually doing anything. Okay. Say for F point where it is stated in the books of accounts, the shares have been allotted for cash, but the cash has been received, but no cash actually has been received. Only in the book entries you have. Then it is regular and not misleading. These kind of transactions should not be misleading. There should not be such kind of things which are not properly shown in the books of account. Okay. So if any book entries you're doing which are just affecting the interest of the company, you are stating in the books of documents that you have allotted the shares, then cash should have actually received for such allotment. Or you're booking it on the accrual basis, then it shall not be misleading. There should be actual cash which would have come after later on. Point number D is very interesting. Loans and advances made have been shown as deposits. Actually, you're giving loans and advances, but you have shown it as deposits. Again, there is an error. So इस तरह के error तो नहीं करें company ने. If it has been done, then why? Why company is showing the loans and advances as deposit? So point number one, loans and advances. Point number two, loans and advances as deposits. Related points. Point number three, you're going to remember mere interest, mere book entries. Point number four. What does point number four says? So C point I'm reading now, where the company not being an investment company or a banking company has consisting of the shares, debentures, and securities have sold at a price less than at which it was purchased. So if you are not an investment, so exception is for the investment and banking company. This rule is not applicable to investment and banking company, but any company other than investment and banking company, if they have sold their shares, debentures at a price less than the purchase price, because investment and banking companies, it is the routine task of them. So it is not applicable. This clause is not applicable to them. But any other company, if the assets that you're having, like shares, debentures, and securities, if you're selling it at less than the purchase price, then why you have doing this? Okay, then inquiry can be set up that why you have sold it less than the cost price. And the last point is if personal expenses have been charged to revenue account. You're doing any personal expenditures and you're booking it in P&L account. Again, there is an error in that. Inquiry can be handled about that. Is that clear? So each and every detailed entry needs to be seen by the auditor. So number one, we have understood the powers are these three blue bullet points you have to remember are the powers of the auditors. And then we are discussing in detail that matters of inquiry. Number one, loans and advances. You can check mere book entries. And if it is not an investment and banking company, if you're selling the assets less than the purchase price, if the loans and advances have been treated as deposits, personal expenditures should not be booked to revenue account. And if any cash allotment, shares allotment have been made, cash has been actually received by the company or not. All these things in detail have to be seen. And also, children, you have to make sure that the standard auditing practices are being followed. It should not be that the auditor is just checking out the things on his own information he's filing, but he should be saying that all the auditing standards are also being followed. So this is your accessing the books of account vouchers, necessary information, accessing the records. These are the first three bullet points. Now, out of the duties of auditors, we have covered one subsection from my presentation. So you can highlight over here, loans and advances, mere book entries. And this is your point of less than purchase price. You can give it a heading, loans treated as deposits, personal expenditures point. And here you can write down if the shares have been allotted, cash has been received or not. Subsection 1, everyone is clear about matters of inquiry. Now we're going to subsection 2 and 3. Auditor shall make the report. Now you can give it a heading, audit report. Point number 2 deals with the audit report. What kind of audit report you're going to make? After you have examined all the books of accounts and financial statements, you need to make a report for that. And this report needs to be given to whom? To whom are you going to submit your audit report? Tell me, children. After the accounts examined and every financial statements, you're required to give your report, which is to be laid by the company in general meeting. So your auditor will give their audit report to the shareholders. Very good. Excellent, Om Krishnam. In AGM, the good report needs to be laid down before the company in general meeting. So you need to give your audit report. After examining the accounts, the audit report will be given to the shareholders. And they will see all the financial statements have been analyzed in the best way. And what is the auditor going to express? He will express his opinion that to the best of the information and knowledge, accounts and financial statements give true and fair view of the company's affair at the end of financial year. Now, this is the statement which we repetitively use when we learn about auditing. आपने balance sheet का true and fair view देना चाहिए and P&L account का correct representation is given in the balance sheet and profit and loss account. This is the opinion given by the auditor. So auditor will express his opinion that the accounts and financial examined by him, जो भी उसको information दिया गया था, to the best of information and knowledge, whether the accounts and financial information, whatever has been given to him, he will give his opinion that it reflects a true and fair view of the company's affairs at the end of the financial year and P&L and cash flow for the year. Balance sheet at the end of the year, P&L account is prepared for the year. So this is the terminology that the auditor has to write and use for telling them that audit report has been correctly made and all the observations have been done. Is that clear, children? All of you are clear upon this point, how the audit report has to be signed and given. So number 1 point, let's quickly again revise. We are doing powers and duties. Powers may we have done first 3 points, accessing the books of accounts, information explanation, and checking the records of subsidiaries. For what are we going to check the records of the subsidiaries and holding company? Only related to the consolidation of the account, not for any other matters. You're going into the detailed discussion of it. Then what are the duties of the auditors? 6 points we have discussed. Loans and advances. First point, secured loans and advances not treated as deposit. Second, mere book entries related with the cash and share capital point. And then not investment and banking company. Other than that, any shares and debentures sold for less than the purchase price, you have to create a doubt about that. And if personal expenses have been charged to revenue account, then also an inquiry has to be set. After doing all these points, auditor is going to make a report on the basis of information given to him, and also he will express his opinion that to the best of the information received, the financial statements show a true picture of the state of companies. Now, subsection 3 ke aage you will write down the heading auditor's report. What heading are you going to give? You will give the heading auditor's report. Subsection 3 ke aage heading likh do, contents of the auditor's report. Now we're going to talk about all these are the points which are the content of the auditor's report. I'll try to simplify it as much as possible so that you can learn these points then and there with me on only. So see, it is such a big lengthy point related to the auditor's report only. It seemed too much lengthy, but it is very, very simple. It is, I can, challenge you this point that it is very, very simple. And once we have gone through all these points, you will find it very, very simple. All right. Now let's discuss one by one all the contents of the auditor's report. So number 1 point, now whatever words I'm going to use, just keep marking it with bold highlighter in your study material also, so that you don't, on the examination day, you can simply just go and flip these pages. I also want to use an highlighter, but I don't know where I can use it. It does not allow me to use a highlighter here. Anyways, just mark this point, information and explanation. So the first point of the auditor's report will give that all the information and explanation has been given to him, which is required for the audit. So we understood in the power of the auditor that he can ask for the information explanation. So the first point you have to tell whether all the information and explanation was given to you or not. And if it was not given, then the details, how it has affected your financial statements, you have to make. So 2 points in information and explanation. Number one, all the information which is necessary for audit was given to you. Number two, if it was not given, then how badly it has affected the financial statements, mention it over there. आपने ऑडिट करा है, आपने सारी चेकिंग करी, नाउ इज द टाइम टू सबमिट योर ऑडिट रिपोर्ट. Whatever you have done, that's why I told you, children, when you go for articleship, keep writing down all your points, and then your seniors will tell you how audit report has to be made. But when you're doing it for the first time, keep writing down your observations, because that is something which is going to help you and make you a big future practicing chartered accountants, because that is how you understand that how I'm going to actually do the audit when I grow up also. So information explanation me first point me heading me everything will be given. Whatever you have asked was given to you, and if it was not given, then how it has affected the financial statement. Clear? And then what will be the second point of heading? Proper books of accounts. Whether the company has maintained proper books of accounts. What is the meaning of books of accounts, children? Please answer me. What do you understand by books of accounts? Chapter number 1, preliminary. Please tell me what is books of accounts. Devyanshi Garg, Ms. Kaushal, all those who are there with us on the portal also, please keep answering. Yes. What are books of accounts? Only 3 children have answered. What about others? So all your financial statements, balance sheet, P&L account, all the books. Okay. That is simple. All the books. Books of accounts means all the books. So proper books of accounts means examination has been done. Whatever books, financial statement, cash flow statement, notes to the account. Very good. Om Krishnam, Swati, Kushi, Kushbu. Correct answer given. Notes to the accounts, P&L, balance sheet, and CFS, that is cash flow statements. All these accounts have been kept by the company properly, and proper returns adequate for the purpose of audit has been received from the branches not visited. Now, what is the line of this? Proper returns received for the branches not visited. So you actually, you have checked. So books of accounts in Chandigarh office, I told you, and there is a branch in Delhi. So it was not feasible for you to go to Delhi office, but whatever information you wanted, you have asked for the branch office to send you, and you have to see that the branches, whatever periodic returns you are receiving from those branches, has been properly visited, even if not visited, have been properly checked, and whatever information was required has been given to you from the branches also. Okay, so proper books of accounts में 2 headings, one which are kept at the registered office also, that have been checked, and proper adequate returns have been received. Periodical returns have been received from the branches also, which were not visited, so that you are sure that accounts maintained here also and in the branches also have been properly audited. Clear, children? Now point number 3, what heading should we make for point number 3? Branch office audit. Point number 3 is branch office audit. So it says that whether the report on the branch office, if the branch audit has been done by any other person other than the company's auditors, then they will prepare a proper report on their audit and whether we have considered this audit report on. So now I am the company's auditor in Chandigarh office, but the branch auditor is Mr. B. So I will take the report from Mr. B and I will consolidate and add its comments in my own company's or as a company auditor also. So if any other person is doing, Mr. B is doing the branch audit, then the branch audit report should also be considered. And how I dealt with it in preparing means whatever points I find important from Mr. B's audit report, I will also add it into my audit. Clear, children? So the first 3 points are clear. Number 1 is information explanation required, has been received, not received. Mention it, what has affected on the financial statement. Number 2, proper books of accounts maintained, registered office TB, and branch periodic return has been received. Point number 3, branch office audit report. If somebody else other than the company's auditor is doing that branch audit, whatever report you have received for the branch audit and how you have dealt with it in preparing your audit. Clear? D point says company's balance sheet and profit and loss account are in agreement with the books of accounts. So now we are talking about P&L and balance sheet. What will be the heading of D point? P&L and balance sheet, whether P&L and balance sheets are in agreement with the books of accounts. What does this mean, children? You made an entry of machinery purchased. What is the general entry for machinery purchased? Jaldi jaldi batao mujhe. Machinery purchased. Machinery account debit to cash. One, machinery is going in the balance sheet. Cash withdrawal, lesser of the cash, whether the proper booking of this journal entry was done in the subsidiary books, and from the subsidiary books it has gone properly into the trial balance. From the trial balance, you prepare your P&L account and your balance sheet account. All this flow of information has been done properly or not. This is what, as an auditor, you have to see. So journal entries, when you see and open and check the vouchers given with them, that is vouching. Verification, then you see that booking of the entries have been placed properly, placing them into the ledger. And then you see that it has flowed into subsidiary books, and the flow of information from the trial balance has nicely come to the P&L and balance sheet. All right, children? Good. And the E point is accounting standards. AS दे दो इसको heading. D point को आपने P&L and balance sheet heading दिया. It is in agreement with the books of accounts. I just told you the example. Example, machinery purchase. Every entry has been booked properly. And point number E is accounting standards. Whether you have followed proper accounting standards or not. What is accounting standards? What is the accounting standard for depreciation? For depreciation, you're giving your first group, right? For accounts, you must be preparing. So what is the accounting standard for depreciation? What is the accounting standard for fixed assets? Accounting standard 10 PPE, Om Krishnam is saying. Accounting standards for fixed assets. Accounting standards for, very good. Property, plant and equipment, AS 10, you're following for depreciation and for property. Now, whether any entries have been made in for the depreciation, whether you have, because those previously was removed. Okay, not to worry, but whatever AS you're following. So what I'm trying to explain you here, whatever you have accounting standards have been properly followed or not. What are the accounting standards? Accounting standards are the principles laid down about how the booking of the entry respect to such kind of accounts have to be done. So whether you have followed that proper accounting standard or not, that also has to be reported by the auditor in his audit report. Clear? First 5 points are clear, children. What is point number F? F को heading दे दो. Adverse effect on the business. Any observation? So what was the adverse effect? I told you this point in my presentation. Also, I've shown you this point, adverse effect. So any business that the company is doing and it is adversely affecting on its functioning means the company has invested a lot of money and they're wasting too much money and effort, but they're not getting any revenue out of that. So if such costs and efforts are being made and no revenue is being generated, then it is having an adverse effect on the functioning of the company. Such observation shall also be given in the audit report. Any director is disqualified from being appointed as a director. Now, this is the point that you have to learn as it is because 164 is part of your CA final slips. But audit report में point आया हुआ है कि if any director is disqualified from being, then you have to mention under section 164 subsection 2 if he is disqualified. Please mention this point in your audit report. So in a company, ABC Limited, there was a director, Mr. D, who was disqualified. While doing your audit observations, you have found that Mr. D is disqualified as per 164.2. So please mention under point number G that director, Mr. D, is disqualified under section 164, subsection 2. Any qualification, reservation, or adverse relating to the maintenance of accounts. So while maintaining the account, so next heading is maintenance of accounts. So whether maintenance of accounts have been properly done or not, whether any adverse effect on the accounts or not, and a director is disqualified. I point is related to internal financial controls. So what is the meaning of internal financial controls? Whether all the internal controls are in proper place or not. Whether all the internal controls means whatever functioning the company has made their own rules and regulations, whether the company is following all those rules and regulations or not. All right. There was an exception under this internal controls point. I will just show you one. Yes, this is the exception. So please, children, this point number I, where the company has adequate financial controls or not, this I point is connected with this table given over here. Oh, sorry, this box given over here. Clause I of 143 subsection 3, where the company has adequate financial controls It shall not apply to a private company, which is OPC or small company, and company having a turnover less than 50 crores. So if the company is having its, first of all, you have to see that the internal financial control are working properly or not. But it is not applicable to OPC and small company and all the private companies which are having less than 50 crores of the turnover or the borrowings which is less than 25 crores. So to these companies, this internal financial control wala, this point is not applicable. So point number I says internal financial control has been working properly or not. First, that you have to see, and what are the two exceptions? It is not applicable to OPC and small company and a company having a turnover less than 50 crores, and also the borrowings is less than 25 crores. Now let's do point number J. Such other matters as may be prescribed. Now, such other matters to be included in the auditor's report. Give it a fair reading. You cannot learn each and every line, but yes, when I make it like this in my notes, I&E, information and explanation, books of accounts, then examiner, exam day वाले दिन सिर्फ ये highlighters जो हमने highlight करे, branch office audit, B&L and balance sheet, accounting standards have been followed or not, adverse effect वाला point, director disqualified, adverse remarking on maintenance of accounts, internal financial control. Internal financial control के साथ यहीं पे just write it down, two exceptions, OPC and small company, and private company having turnover less than 50 crores and or borrowings less than 25 crores. Is that clear? Now let's move to any other matters. So now law has given you under 143 subsection 3 clause J other matters, and these other matters are given under rule number 11. What are these other matters? Any litigation matters which are pending. How are they going to affect my financial positions? So number one in other matters is pending litigation. So the company is having certain litigations which are pending, cases which are lying pending, on which call has to be taken, whether the tax has to be paid, whether no. So what will be its effect on my financial statement? If the call is taken that the tax is paid, then the revenue will get little more low. If the tax is not to be made, what will be the implication? This kind of implication also the auditor has to mention in his report. If company has made any provision for the material forcible losses means मुझे दिख रहा है कि आगे I'll be having losses in the company on any long-term products, then a provision has been made on it. So in balance sheet, in profit and loss account, sometimes we need to make a provisional entry if we are not possible to see any profits in the future and we see any losses in the future, then we have to make provisional entries for that. Any delay in transferring the amount to IEPF account, Investor Education and Protection Fund, you have studied about this in accounts of companies. So whether the amounts have been transferred to them properly, was any delay made in this case or not? Where the management has represented to the best of its knowledge any loans, advances. Now, these are the points that you can give it a reading. Loans and advances have been made properly. Proper funding has been done. Ultimate beneficiaries points. Who was the ultimate beneficiary? Whether proper representation has been made. Has any funds received as funding parties? The company has lent any funds to the ultimate beneficiaries. Notice has been given to the auditor that the appropriate things have been done and there was nothing which has a material mistake. All right, so these 3 points are related to the ultimate beneficiaries. And the last point says dividend has been declared as per section 1423. So you have done dividend declaration also. So litigation spending should not be there if there is any effect on the financial statement, provision made for the losses, any delay in IEPF account, dividends have been paid as per section 123, and the point related to ultimate beneficiaries. And the last point says any accounting software which has been made should be having a proper audit trail feature or not. Audit trail or log means which shows all the details how the audit needs to be done. So as per the statutory requirement, everything has been retained by the company. So if you're using any accounting software, which is whether this accounting software is maintaining the audit trail properly or not. So companies having an accounting software in which, for example, Tally, in which they're booking the entries and then the entries flow into balance sheet and profit and loss account. Whether proper edit log facility is there, whether the audit trail is being followed in this requirement. Is that clear, children? 143.4, where any of the matter is answered negative or with qualification, he shall state the reason for the same. So any points under 143.4, if you have any disqualification, you must mention these points with the reason that why it was not clarified. Okay, any of these matters having any of the negative reasons means you have to give the reasons why you have given the disqualification of any of these ones. Clear, children? Can we move to illustration 11? All of you, please read down illustration 11 we are going to discuss. So MNO Limited is a listed company trading of various products. Manufacturing has been started. Auditors completed the procedure and they got stuck in one of the procedure because of which audit was not concluded. Now, auditors are waiting for the additional information, director's report and management discussion for their review. Management is not ready to provide this information and they cannot complete their work without this review. What will you advise as per the legal requirements? What do you think will happen in this case? And where do you think this point is covered? Yes. What will happen, children? Is an auditor have the access to the explanation and information? Can he ask for all this information? So it says requirement is regarding additional information which they have not been able to conclude doesn't look valid. So you have to have a valid requirement. If you are not giving me books of accounts, you're not giving me P&L, you're not giving me balance sheet, means you're putting a hindrance in my audit, then it is a valid requirement. But in this case, they have completed all the procedures, but they're still looking forward for director's report and management discussion analysis. In all the above points, have we read that it is compulsory to give this director report? Have we read that management discussion analysis have to be given? It is compulsory. It says if this requirement might not be making my audit invalid, it is not making that I will not be able to conclude the audit doesn't look valid. Auditor is required to audit the financial statement and express the opinion. Auditor does not audit these additional information, so he cannot conclude because of the delaying of the information. So it says you're simply delaying because of the work. So you can give it in two ways you can answer. Number one, there was certain information explanation because of which I cannot complete my audit report. Then it becomes a legal hindrance. You have to give me, then only I can complete it. Second, you can say that this is mere information that you're asking and it is not affecting my work. Auditor's view is to give express opinion on the financial statement. He does not audit these additional information, then he can leave this as a disclaimer in his audit report that this information was not given to me and I am not able to express my opinion on the same. So auditor should conclude the work without delaying because of this. So they should conclude the work. They can mention this in the disclaimer kind of thing that we were not provided this thing. It should not be affecting and stopping his work. Is that clear, children? Everyone? Any doubts in illustration 11? Anyone wants to ask anything? Okay. Clear, ma'am. Good. And if any matter in the audit report is negative or qualification, do you need to state the reasons for that? Subsection 4 says, yes, we need to state the reasons for that. Now, subsection 9 and 10. 9 and 10 tells you compliance with the auditing standards. Every auditor shall comply with the auditing standards. CG has prescribed the auditing standards in recommendation given by ICAI and also the recommendation made by the NFRA. So whatever accounting standards, accounting standards, accountant will comply with accounting standards while making his accounts. Auditor shall comply with the auditing standards, which has been given by our own ICAI recommendation has been given after the examination of the recommendation given by NFRA, that is National Financial Reporting Authority. Additional matters in case of specified companies. There are certain companies where central government may in direction with NFRA direct that these matters also to be included, then they have to include these matters. So this is CARO 2020 issued by MCA should be complied by statutory auditor on which it applies. So CARO is the report which has to be given. So this is again part of your auditing chapter. CARO report has to be given. So if you'll see CARO report 2020, it has all these contents. You don't even have to bother how I have to make my audit report. Everything is written over there. You just have to fill this report. It is issued by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. It has to be complied by the statutory auditor of every company. Is that clear, children? Reporting about the frauds by the auditor. Subsection 12, 13 and 15 read with Rule 13 of the company's audit and auditors rules. If any fraud is involved in the company, if the auditor finds that the company has committed any fraud, then what will be the provisions? Let us read these rules. So somebody is asking me, ma'am, we have to learn all these rules also. So as always, I tell you, rules are not compulsory. You can just give it a fair reading. But if you can retain the information, then it is fine enough. But sections, you should try to remember as far as possible. Even if subsections or rules you're not able to recall, it's absolutely fine. But keep doing it, keep speaking it, keep revising it. Bar bar bolne se automatically you're able to do. So if the auditor, while doing his duties, find that something is offensive which involves fraud, and the fraud is of amount of rupees 1 crore and above. Now, if you are an auditor of the company and you have seen that certain fraud has been committed, while you as a chartered accountant being a statutory auditor, if you come to know that somebody has committed a fraud in the company which is amounting to more than 1 crore rupees, then you need to immediately report about it. Within how many days you need to report it to the audit committee or board of directors? Yes, within how many days? At least within 2 days. Immediately report within such time means at least minimum 2 days shall be taken. Not less than 2 days, you have to report it to the central government and the also committed against the company. So you have found as a statutory auditor, you have found that any offense is being committed. Yes, sir, you want to say something? Is this some technical problem, Ashok, sir? Something has been written by Board of Studies. Sir, the message, I have sent you the message. A message received from BOS LVC. All right, so then we can maybe remove him from the session. All right, thank you, sir. Yes, students, let's pay attention. If any fraud is being involved, which is more than of rupees 1 crore or above, so you as an auditor, you're doing your duties, and while doing the audit, you found that something which is against the company, any of the officer or employee has committed any fraud, which is value of worth rupees 1 crore or more, then immediately you need to report it to the central government. Okay, such kind of things you cannot wait. It says not less than 2 days you shall report the matter to board and audit committee. You cannot go for 30 days or 15 days. Immediately you have to tell because the fraud is being involved. And see, children, the amount is also so huge, more than 1 crore. 1 crore or more. So both things. Even if it is up till 1 crore, then also you need to report. Within 2 days, you have to report it to the board or audit committee. And within how many days they should are expected to reply you back? Seeking a reply on this observation within 45. So what will happen? Mr. A, the auditor, he found while checking the books of accounts, there is a fraud which any officer is doing, which is worth more than rupees 1 crore. He will immediately report it to the central government and also he will report it to the board and the audit committee. All right. I think why this message is again coming, I don't know. Anyways, then you report about this in 2 days to the board and audit committee, and you will write them that please give us a reply on this within 45 days. Now, it is the responsibility of the board of directors and the audit committee to find out why this kind of fraud has been committed. So within 45 days, they have to find why this kind of fraud has been committed, and they have to reply back to the auditor. So what will happen? 2 days may you will inform, 45 days may they will inform. Now, auditor will forward his report and reply along with his comments to the central government within 15 days. So today you told them within 45 days you get the reply. So 1st of January you told them by 15th February you have got the reply, or 14th February because we have 31 days in January. So within 14 days you've got so 45 days you get the reply. Now within further 15 days you have to get back to the central government giving your comment on such observation. First, auditor will send it to the audit committee and board. They will reply in 45 days. After receiving the reply, auditor will check and he will give his own comments and suggestions to the CG within 15 days from the date of the. But if the auditor does not get the reply in 45 days, I told you, audit committee, that please see that there is a fraud, but you did not reply back till 14th February. You were busy celebrating your own holidays, you have not replied me. So now I am going to directly report to the central government along with the report, along with the note that I sent it to them. They have not given me any. Why do you think an auditor is doing that? Because he wants to be clear about his duties. It is your professionalism. It is your professional ethic. If you're doing the audit, you should do it nicely, cleanly, and as per your standard auditing practices. You have to follow each and everything which is laid down for you to be followed in order to do a proper, valid audit of any company. So you have come across any fraud, you need to report it immediately. Central government ko bataoge, board audit committee ko bataoge 2 din mein, they should reply back you in 15 days. And once they have replied in 15 days, then next 15 days, sorry, 45 days, then next 15 days, you send your report to the central government. But if you fail to get the reply in for 45 days, then you directly report to the central government along with a note that I have given earlier, I have given my observations to board and audit committee, and I did not receive any reply from them. Is that clear? I hope everyone is clear about that. The report shall be sent to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs in a sealed cover by a registered post. Now, this is a very, very important report. You're reporting about a fraud which is a value of 1 crore or more. So you cannot just simply send the reports. It has to be sealed properly by a registered post with acknowledgement due. Acknowledgement due means that this post, once it has been received, it shall be acknowledged back to you also by speed post. Also, you can send it by email in confirmation. Also, this mode can be sent. So under point number D, child, you can write down on the side, mode of sending the report of fraud. Mode of sending the report for fraud. So this report will be sent to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. MCA ke secretary ko this report is going because it is such an important matter if any fraud has been committed in a company. So the auditor will send this report a formal way. The report has to be sent to the Secretary, MCA, in a registered post or by speed post or by an email of the confirmation. And in what form this report needs to be sent, children? What is the form number in which the audit report containing a fraud needs to be sent? Tell me, ADT 1 was for the appointment of auditor. 2 we did for removal of auditor. 3 we did for resignation of the auditor. Which is the last form? We only have 4 forms in this chapter. So which form is to be used for sending the auditor's report for fraud? ADT 4, absolutely correct. All of you have given the correct answer. ADT 4 is the correct answer. Report shall be in the form of ADT 4. Fraud involving less than 1 crore rupees. So everybody is clear about the fraud involving more than 1 crore rupees. Everybody is clear about that. Fraud हुआ 1 crore से ज़्यादा हुआ 2 days में CG को बताया. Audit committee and board of directors has to be informed. Within 45 days, reward has to come. After receiving the reward, you add your own comments and observations, and within 15 days, give it to the central government. If you have not received within 45 days, then just report to the central government that we have sent the report to AC and BOD, but they have not reverted, and along with the. And how the report has to be sent to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs in a sealed cover by registered post or by an email confirmation. And this report is to be sent in form number ADT 4. And the report shall be on the letterhead of the auditor. Very important, beta. Auditor will also indicate his membership number. MCQ question can come on this. Do you need to indicate your membership number as an auditor when you're sending ADT 4? Absolutely right. Yes, you have to give, because this report has to be given on the letterhead of the auditor containing his postal address, contact number, because you are the auditor who has found this information. Now you have to take the obligation of this thing. You have to give your membership number as well. All right. So on the letterhead of the auditor containing his address, telephone number, and also his membership number needs to be mentioned over here. I hope everyone is clear upon this point, because this is a very, very important point, children, related to the auditing report related to fraud. And what if the fraud is less than rupees 1 crore? Ma'am, you have told us 1 crore or more. What if the fraud is less than 1 crore? It is 90 lakhs fraud. It is 40 lakhs fraud. It is 50 lakhs fraud, 99 lakhs fraud, rupees fraud. Then what will happen? Then you have to report to the audit committee or board. In case the fraud is involving less than 1 crore, then you have to simply report the matter to the audit committee or the board not later than 2 days. And you simply have to tell them. Immediately means at least 2 days time period will be given, and you just immediately report the matter to AC and board of directors. You don't have to go to the central government. Okay. We already have technical support. Ashok sir, you are in the meeting, but there is an invitation again coming. Please kindly check that in the waiting room. I hope, sir, you are taking care of the waiting room. Okay. So if the fraud is less than 1 crore rupees, the auditor will simply report the matter to the audit committee or board within 2 days. And what they have to specify, they simply have to tell the nature of the fraud, amount involved, and the parties involved. They don't have to go into much of the details how this fraud happened. They will simply tell you all these details about the nature of the fraud, amount involved, and the parties involved. Also, a disclosure has to be given in the board's report. Now, board's report will also, when the amount is less than 1 crore, then you have to mention in the board's report also that this was the nature of fraud, this was the amount involved, and the parties if remedial action not taken, and what are the actions taken. So this is specifically the case where the fraud involved is less than 1 crore. You will simply mention to the board of directors, and board will take care about all these things, and they will state this in the board's report. Now, what is this bona fide faith? No duty to which the auditor may be subject shall be regarded as having contravened if it is done in good faith. It says once you have given your duty as a fraud, you have given your comments to the audit committee or board of directors. If you have done it in good faith, you have not done any contravention. Don't be scared of telling us about the fraud. You have not done any kind of wrong thing. It says reporting of the fraud never lead to contravention of duty. Example, confidentiality is being maintained. There is no breach of trust. It is your responsibility. It is a professionally ethical thing to do. If you have come across any fraud, you should report it. And if the auditor, cost accountant, company secretary does not comply with subsection 12, then a penalty of rupees 5 lakh in listed companies, and any other company means unlisted company 1 lakh. So listed companies will be applicable to the fine of 5 lakh rupees, and unlisted company will be applicable to the fine of 1 lakh rupees. All right. Okay, no worry, Om Gupta, Devyanshi Garg. You can mention the answers over here on the portal. All those who are writing, ma'am, chat is disabled because somebody was just trying to create a kiosk. That's why the chat is disabled. You can write back your queries on the admin query pad, okay? And if you still want to ask anything, you can raise your hands. I will try to speak to you. All right? Yes, Devyanshi Garg, I hope you got my answer. Okay. So now, if you're liable for a penalty of 5 lakhs and 1 lakh in case of any other company, if you do any kind of contravention in this subsection. Now, children, I give you a small break over here because we have done too much of section 143. So just learn it, understand, revise it. Section 143, subsection 12. अच्छे से पढ़ो एक बारी. Just see what is about the fraud, 1 crore, more than 1 crore, less than 1 crore. And let's take a small break here and then we just quickly complete the chapter. Just go through and see if you have any doubts. Friends, welcome back. Let's proceed ahead. Any doubts still here, children? I hope the point of fraud is absolutely clear to all of you now. Okay. So now let's move ahead to the point of audit of government companies. So can you tell me, you can answer me here on the query pad. Those who are here in the Zoom meeting also, they can answer me back here. How the auditor of a government company is appointed? What was the procedure for appointing the auditor of government company? How many days were given C&AG and then how many days were given to the shareholders? Remember all that procedure of 60 days, 30 days, and then further 30 days are given to the shareholders. Total 150 days. Absolutely correct. So once the government auditor has been appointed, how the audit of government companies, what powers have been given to them? So how we have to learn, children, all these points that we have done A to J were related of government powers and duties of the auditor other than government companies. So we have discussed these points. We have done illustration 11 also. After that, Rule 13 specifically talked about 143 subsection 12, that is fraud committed. More than 1 crore, then what is the provisions? Less than 1 crore, then what is the provision? Illustration 12 first we'll do, and then we will move to the audit of government companies. NSH Limited engaged in the business of retail and listed on National Stock Exchange. Company acquired a business undertaking to expand its business. Transactions of thousands of rupees were carried by employees and directors, which the management found suspicion and consulted a forensic consultant to carry out the review. Now, a company is engaged in the retail business. They are listed on stock exchange also. It is a listed company. And they're expanding their business. The transactions of thousands of rupees, officers and directors are involved. Therefore, they have appointed a forensic consultant to do their review. Suspicious transactions were reported and the management reported this to the appropriate authorities. During the course of statutory audit, such transactions were also made known to the statutory auditor. What will statutory auditor do? Simply, he will report to the audit committee or board if it finds that fraud is more than 1 crore rupees. Then he will also tell CG that fraud is being committed. If where applicable, please children, note down this point. He is simply telling you that if such transactions, suspicion has been raised and these transactions are also reported by the statutory auditor, then what is required to do? You will not blindly apply 143 subsection 12. You have to say that if it is applicable, if any fraud has been committed, suspicion has been raised, then information has to be given by the management to the auditor. Auditor will report this material to the audit committee and board, but they will not be required to report the same to the central government if it is less than 1 crore. If it is more than 1 crore rupees, then they will always report to the central government. Also, again, 2 days, 45 days, 15 days procedure will be followed. Also, they need to report about this material appropriately in their CARO report. CARO report is as per the auditing standards and practicing that they have to make. They have to report this material in the CARO report. Now, the audit of government companies. How the audit of government companies is done? C&AG will appoint the auditor for the government companies, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. They will appoint the auditor for the government companies as per section 139(5) and 7, which I've just briefly explained. So appointment of auditor, section 139, same appointment of the government auditors also we have discussed. So C&AG will appoint the auditor in the same. C&AG will direct how the audit has to be done. And then after doing this audit, they will submit their copy to the C&AG. So C&AG ही appoint करेगा, वो direction देगा how the accounts of the government company are to be audited, and then auditor so appointed will submit a copy of the report, audit report to C&AG. What all they shall include in the audit report? So once you have done the audit of government company, you need to include that these were the directions issued by C&AG. These are the actions taken, and this is the impact of the financial statement. These 3 things the auditor of government company needs to write in his audit report. So what are the 3 things? Examiner will ask you, what are the 3 things we need to report in our audit report of government company? Number 1, directions which were issued by C&AG, actions taken upon that, and its impact on the financial statement. Now let's discuss about the supplementary audit. Now you have done the audit. You are the auditor of government company. You were appointed by C&AG. Direction were given to you. did the audit as per his directions, and you have submitted the report writing all these 3 points that this was the direction given to me, this is the action taken by me, and this is the impact on the financial statements of the audit. Now, if C&AG feels that whatever audit that you have done, you need to do a little more audit upon that. A supplementary audit is required. There are certain things we are not clarified upon that. Then within 60 days of receiving the audit report, they can ask them to conduct a supplementary audit of the financial statements. For the purpose of audit, require such information and additional information as may be required. So they will ask them that if you can conduct a supplementary audit, needs to be required to be conducted by such authorized person. They will also tell the person who is authorized to conduct a supplementary audit and comment upon the supplementary audit. So you submitted a report to C&AG and they were not satisfied with this report and they said that there are certain things which more needs to be done. Then they need to request them to do a supplementary audit. Again, the auditor will submit a report on this supplementary audit. So first they will give the comments on the C&AG audit and then supplementary audit report, and this audited financial statements shall be placed before the AGM at the same time when the audit is being placed. Now this supplementary audit was on the financial statements. So you have audited the financial statements and you feel that something is not done properly. So you have done the supplementary audit of the financial statement. But sometimes test audit is required. Test audit is required for the books of account. Supplementary audit for the financial statements. So आपने audit करा उसमें कुछ रह गया तो again you have been required to ask. So first you send the audit report, then supplementary audit, and now C&AG will give his comments. Now supplementary audit after submitting the report, C&AG will give the comments. Comment upon such audit report means now C&AG will give their comments upon this supplementary audit report. And this will be laid down as other reports as the other audit report before the AGM. But sometimes government company and government control companies, C&AG can also cause the test audit of the books of account. So simply you can write down supplementary audit is of the financial statements, and test audit can also be required to be asked for the books of accounts whether the books of accounts have been properly kept on. So provisions of section 19A of Comptroller Auditor General Act will apply to audit of such tax audit. We don't have to do the details of test audit. इतनी सी line जरूरी है. Test audit भी बोल सकते हैं. Test audit is to see whether the proper books of accounts are being maintained as covered by section 139, whether proper books of accounts have been maintained or not. Is that clear, children? Any doubts in audit of government companies? Powers given to the auditor of the government companies. I hope it's clear. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask, because now we'll be moving to the branch audit, and you can raise your hands if you want to ask any doubts. Okay, no doubts? Good. Audit of accounts of branch office. Now, if you're doing the audit of the branch office, how the audit of branch office has to be done? When the company is having a branch office, it depends whether the branch office is inside India or it is outside India. If the branch office is within India, then the company's auditor appointed under 139 or any other person qualified as branch auditor can be appointed. So you can either have the same. So I have branch office in India. My office is in Chandigarh. I'm having branch office in Delhi. So the company auditor, Mr. A, is appointed for Chandigarh office. It can be the same person who is appointed for the branch audit also, or it can be any other person can also be appointed, whosoever is in India auditor. He qualified for an auditor means any other chartered accountant in practice can also be appointed as an auditor under section 139 for that branch. And if my branch office is in USA, then what will happen? Then either my company's auditor, the one who is doing in Chandigarh, will only do the company's auditor, will do the branch audit of USA, or an accountant will do, or any other person who is qualified to be appointed according to laws of that country. So as per the US laws, whosoever is acting as the auditor, a CPA, ACCA, whosoever is the qualified auditor as per their country, that person will be appointed as the auditor for my branch audit. All right, not that relevant, not that tough. It is simply to remember branch office within India. You will remember company auditor or any other person. Branch office outside India, then company auditor and the accountant or the person which is applicable as per the laws of that country. Now, duties and powers of this company's auditor along with this branch auditor. What are the duties and powers of this company's auditor? The branch auditor will submit reports and they have to see how the fraud, if any, has been extended to the branch audit, how they have dealt it, also extends to the concerned. So company auditor अपना audit कर रहा है as per section 143 subsection 1 to 4. We have just read all those points, and they will also get a report of the branch auditor. They will have to see, compile this report in their own audit report also. They have to see whether they have work functioned properly or not, or if there is any kind of fraud mentioned by them. Is that clear? Now, application of 143 to cost accountants and company secretary also. It says this section shall mutatis mutandis apply to cost accountant who is doing cost audit, and CS also who is doing, sorry, and to the CS also. I hope I'm audible. The connection is not gone. So these are the rule 11 that we have done. These are all the brief summaries that I have made for you, all of you to refer. So where were we reading? Cost audit point. I'll just check your study material, children, just a second. Let's start. So any cost accountant will be appointed as per section 148. Now we're going to do section 148. Okay. So section 148 tells us how the cost accountant is going to do the cost audit, and if any secretarial practices, then company secretary will be doing their audit. It says same rules will be applicable to all of them also. Now, section 144, children, we have covered this from my notes, so you can simply remember this table. These are the services which you should not be providing if you are an auditor of a company. Also, you should not be associated with any trademark or brand in which you're doing the audit. And similarly, if a firm, again, should not be having this kind of complications. I told you, you can still do the GST audit and tax audits apart from 144. And this is the definition of relatives I was telling you. These are the people who will be considered directly or indirectly, which are providing services. See, this is written over here. Directly or indirectly includes these points. Section 145, children, we have discussed about this. Whether entire audit report is to be read before the company in general meeting. Come on, tell me. Do you need to stand over there and you need to read whole of your CARO 2020? This is my report. This is what I've made, information, everything. No. It is only the qualification and information which is having adverse effect on the functioning of the company that is need to be read in the general meeting and shall be kept open for inspection. Remember, clause I के बाद हमने J वाला जो पढ़ा था, that is the point which has to mention over here. Section 146 also we have done. This is how the notice has to be given. A company, Modern Furniture Limited, convened its meeting. The notice was not served to the auditor. Is it obligatory? Yes, ma'am, it is obligatory to serve the notice. Okay, and the penalty will be charged under 147. We are going to read the penalty also. Regarding the general meeting for which notice is served as an auditor, whether audit is mandatorily required to attend, while in no and second case, it says whether you can attend it yourself or you can send any authorized representative who can attend it. If yes, whether it is required to attend the meeting personally. So it will say, first part is yes, you have to attend, but it is not compulsory to attend it personally. Now, contraventions for punishment, if any, punishment for contravention. If any contraventions has been done from section 143 to 146, you have not, or section 139 from the appointment of the auditor has not been appointed properly, or removal did not happen properly. He resigned, but his resignation papers were not put across properly, or any contravention for notice has not been sent, section 143 is not being followed properly, 144 services you are providing, any contravention from 139 to 146, you get attracted by the penalty of section 147. So I told you registration of charges, deposits, dividend, all these chapters which are very, very small, you must learn the penalties, and auditor वाली तो बहुत ही जरूरी है, because auditor की penalty, you being a chartered accountant future CS, and this chapter is also part of your audit syllabus. So audit penalty is very, very important to learn. You must learn this penalty, even if you're not learning other penalties. At least this auditor वाली penalty you must learn because it is very, very important. So the company is punishable with a fine not less than 25,000, but it's 10 to 5 lakhs. So you can write down with your pencil on the side, 25,000 to 5 lakh rupees is the penalty of the company. And what is the penalty of the, okay, they have written it down for you. What is the penalty for the officer in default? 10,000 to 1. So 25,000 to 5 lakh is for the company, and 10,000 to 1 lakh if any officer has contributed. Now, this is very, very important. Penalty of an auditor. You did not accept it 139. You are providing 144 services. you are contravening section 145, then you are punishable with a fine of 25,000, which may extend to 5 lakh rupees. 25,000 rupees, which may extend to 5 lakhs or 4 times the remuneration of the auditor, which is less. So minimum fine 25,000 and maximum 5 lakh rupees, या फिर 4 times of your remuneration, children. If I'm giving you 1 lakh rupees as an auditor, so 4 lakh or 5 lakh, whichever is more, so 4. If you're getting 2 lakh 50,000 as an auditor, so 2 lakh 50 into 4, what is that? So 10 lakhs or 5 lakhs, whichever is low, 5 lakh will be your fine. If the auditor knowingly or willfully deceive any of the matters or the taxation authorities or shareholders, then again 447 will also become applicable and he is punishable with a fine of 1 year, imprisonment, and a fine which is not less than 50,000, which you can extend to 25 lakh. So what my dear students have to do, you can just read this line 139, 144, 145, and then just come to this penalty. You simply refer to these tables that Institute has made beautifully for you. You don't even need to read this lines. So you will read that this any contravention of this 25,000 to 5 lakh. And if you are willfully, knowingly contravening any of the provisions, 50,000 minimum fine and 50,000 and 8 times the remuneration. See what a harsh fine. And children, this is what happened in the case of Satyam case also when PwC were the auditors, this huge fine and even they were pushed to imprisonment also. So as an auditor, you cannot cheat anyone. So as a chartered accountant, it is your moral responsibility and duty to work ethically. That is why we have very important chapters, that is professional ethics. Okay, if you are willfully trying to deceive the company shareholders, you have the access to all the books of accounts, you're trying to cheat them, you're trying to be a part of any fraud, then minimum to 50,000 fine ho jayega, otherwise 8 times of the remuneration or 25 lakh rupees, whichever is low. Such a huge fine. And is the word imprisonment, to hogi, 1 saal ki jail aapko hogi hi hogi. You cannot escape from that. So be very, very sure and absolutely correct to the ethical practices once you are into practice and once you are into the profession. Okay, and where the auditor is convicted under subsection 2, then he will refund his remuneration. Jail bhi jaoge, conviction bhi ho rahi hai, and you need to refund, pay back your remuneration that you have received from the company and also pay the damages to the company. Now, because of all this thing, we have suffered the damages because of the misleading statements. So you need to refund the remuneration also and you need to pay the damages. And similar is the contravention by audit firm, where I was telling you all the partners will be taken action jointly and civil. And since the act is of fraud, 447 given under prospectus chapter. I keep telling you, see, they have written it also now. Whenever I mention about fraud, I always tell you, please refer chapter 3. They have written it also now for you, that please refer chapter 3 for 447 fraud. Now, last section 148, and as I promised you in the last class, I will be taking little extended class. So we will extend this class little bit because we have to complete last section, that is 148. Any doubts till here, children? Because now we will be moving to section 148. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask your doubts. Section 148, we're going to do about the cost audit. Anyone wants to ask anything, you can raise your hands also. If you have no doubts, then you can write back no doubts. Okay, Ritu is saying understood, ma'am. Om Gupta, Devyanshikar, all of you good children. So you have understood. Nice. So let's proceed ahead. Section 148. Who shall prepare the cost records? Now, children, cost records, if you are giving both the groups, then you must be knowing that you have costing also as part of your syllabus. So you don't have to do much of the details in cost audit. You simply have to remember over here. Okay, your chat box is now enabled. So I'm glad you are replying back now. Okay, good. So applicability for maintenance of cost record. First of all, section 148 says that cost audit has to be done. So like a chartered accountant ICAI, under the ICAI, you get this degree of chartered accountancy. Similarly, the cost auditor has to be a qualified cost auditor who has been given the degree under ICAI. So cost auditor has to be maintenance of cost record. First of all, it says that there's certain companies which are engaged in the production and providing of goods and services and having a turnover of more than 35 crore, they are only required to maintain these cost records. So whether it is a domestic company or foreign company, it is not for all the companies. It is only for the companies which have been under table A regulated and free or non-regulated table. Whatever details have been given over there, those companies only which are having their turnover more than 35 crores or equal to, they are only required to maintain the cost record. Now, once you have maintained the cost records, audit has to be conducted in the same way in addition to section 140. Auditor has been appointed under 143. We have discussed all his powers and duties that he's doing. He's accessing the information, checking the books of accounts, checking all the preparation of the accounts. So here under section 148, it says, in addition to 143, you need to get the cost audit also done. Who will be appointing the cost auditor? Only the cost accountant who is defined under the Companies Act is to be appointed as the cost auditor. So they knew that you will have to go back to preliminary chapter for seeing the definition. Institute has written the definition here, only reference for all of you. So let's read the definition of who is a cost accountant. Section 2, subsection 1, clause B of Companies Act says, of the cost and works accountant. See, they're saying section 2, subsection 28 defines who is a cost accountant. So who is a cost accountant who has been defined under the Cost and Works Accountant Act. It means a person who is holding a valid certificate of practice under ICAI and is into whole-time practice. He also include the firm of cost accountants and LLP of cost accountants. So, जैसे chartered accountants, partners of the chartered accountants having a CA firm, that can be appointed as a statutory auditor, or I am a CA having a certificate of practice, I can be appointed as the auditor. Similarly, a cost accountant who is cost accountant as per the ICAI Act, that person, individual, can only be appointed as the cost accountant. Person appointed shall not be appointed. So, person appointed under 139 कौन था? Who was the person appointed under 139? He was the statutory auditor. He can do the work of tax audit and GST audit, but he cannot do the work of cost records audit because company's auditor can only do the company's audit. He will not be doing the cost audit. Illustration number 15 says, can a professional LLP having CAs and CMAs appointed as the cost auditor as well as statutory auditor? Tell me, children. Illustration number 5. Can you appoint CAs and CMAs as partners as cost auditor also? No, because only the people appointed under 139 for company auditor and they shall not be appointed as the cost auditor, and vice versa will also not happen. Cost accountant will not do your stat audit. Unka apna profile hai, apna role hai. Cost auditor has to see all the material labor has been correctly brought in by the company. All the cost related cost of items under section 148. Remember when we were doing the definitions, we have read about items given under section 148. So here, a particular cost auditor is required to be appointed who will be checking all these kind of things. Now, qualification and duties of the cost auditor, he will appoint it under 148 and the company will, it is the duty of the company to give him all the assistance. Like the company was giving the assistance and help and information to the statutory auditor, company is going to provide all the information to the cost auditor also. Report of the cost auditor shall be submitted by the cost accountant to the board of directors. किसको देनी है आपने report? Or statutory auditor was giving it to the shareholders in the general meeting. Cost auditor is giving his report to the board of directors. 143 subsection 12, which was applicable for the fraud, is also mutatis mutandis applicable to the cost auditor during his functions. Cost auditor है एक separate person appointed by the ICAI person who is having the degree, but the same principles as the statutory auditor, he was to report the fraud more than 1 crore, less than 1 crore. Cost auditor also needs to take care of while his functioning of his duties about that fraud section. Cost auditor किससे comply करेगा? With the cost auditing practices. Chartered accountant needs to comply with the standard auditing practices, standard accounting practices. Cost auditor needs to comply with the cost auditing standards set up by the ICAI, Institute of Cost Accountants of India. They have set up this under the Cost and Works Accountant Act with the approval of central government. Within how many days the report of the cost audit has to be given, children? Quickly answer. This is your revisionary session. You now very well know who are the cost accountants, who are the cost auditors. Within how many days they have to give their report? Within 30 days, they have to give the report to the central government with full information and any qualification. What is the meaning of qualification? What is the meaning of qualification? If there was any error in the cost audit report, they also have to mention this qualification. If after considering the cost audit report and the information given, central government feels that this information more is required or they shall furnish this information, then that information is also to be provided. So children, please note down, central government will only tell certain companies to give a cost audit report. It is mandatory. It is not for all the companies. CG will only specify what are the companies for which needs to give the cost audit report. And such companies shall, within 30 days of the receipt of the cost audit report, shall pursue with the directions given by the central government. And they need to submit the report to the board of directors. Again, if any contravention, same punishment of 147(1), same punishment of subsection 2 and 4 of 147. All right. And the last part over here is National Financial Reporting Authority, how the NFRA is trying to enforce the compliance with the auditing standards. Children, this is a very, very generic section, National Financial Reporting Authority. It is the authority which helps you to give the powering and compliance with the auditing standards. Like I've been telling you that you have to comply with your accounting practices while making your accounts, while bookkeeping the entries. Similarly, as an auditor, you need to comply with the auditing standards, and these auditing standards practicing is being given by the National Financial Reporting Authority. So NFRA can review the working papers. How is NFRA going to prepare this? वो कह रहे हैं वो monitor करता है and compliance ensure करता है, but how are they going to ensure this? Monitoring and enforcing compliance with auditing practicing, how the NFRA and auditors are related, this is what is trying to tell you. So it tell you that the NFRA may review the working papers. So NFRA will come and see that how the audit plans and other audit documents are being made. Just a second, children. There's little disturbance in the back. All right. There was little noise at the back. I hope it's fine now. So NFRA may review the working papers. Reviewing of the working papers, children, means audit plan and other documents. So now, first of all, when you go and start the audit of any company, you have to make an audit plan. How are you going to do this audit? So that plan includes how your financial statements, what approach are you going to follow? This is all the details that you study in the auditing chapter. But NFRA can review your working papers. These are your working papers, how you made the audit plan, how you plan to audit the documents, and all of the communications and discussions that you had among your firm or your partners about the audit. These working papers, NFRA can review them. Also, they will see that the quality control systems have been adopted by the auditor. That means, are you ensuring proper, for example, if there is a sampling technique, out of 10, you have to pick up a sample of 5 or 6 items. Have you checked it as per that? So have you followed those sampling techniques? Are you qualifying the quality controls have been followed or not? Other testing of the auditors and procedures, everything test that you have applied, they can come and review it, whether you have applied proper test or not, just to make it sure that the proper internal controls and other statutory controls are being followed by the company. So Rule 8 further provides that NFRA may require the auditor to report on the government governance practices and internal procedures, seeking the additional information. Separate report needs to be prepared to given to the central government. So these are just the basic points, children, that you need to just go through it once. It's not mandatory to learn it, but since it is part of your syllabus, the FARA is a very important authority body which is helping us to regulate the rules related to the auditing standard. So you must go through it. Just give it a fair reading, okay? So after that, they have to see that the quality of services, and if there is any scope for improvement, they will provide for that also. And finally, filing the return. Rule 5 requires every auditor of class of companies or bodies shall file a return with the NFRA on or before 30th November every year in NFRA 2 form. Last line है थोड़ी important है because इसमें time period आ रहा है before 30th November, so you can mark it. It can come as an MCQ. So Rule 5 simply tells you that every auditor shall file a return with the NFRA by 30th November, and this is to be filed in NFRA 2 form. Is that clear, children? So I'm glad within the time period we have completed this audit and auditors chapter. Each and every provision has been discussed in detail, and I hope you have enjoyed the session, all of you. Thank you, Om Krishna. I'm glad we have completed it within the time period. Now, please go through all these MCQs. MCQs, children, help to give you a clarity. Some of the descriptive questions also I wanted to show you from here. So the straightforward question relating to appointment of the auditors and removal, simply section 139 and section 140 reference can be given over here. Question number 2 and 3 are case study based questions. You must try writing them and doing the writing practice. Okay. And these again are the points related to the government company auditors, a practicing auditor qualified to be appointed. So all the provisions that we have discussed and all these answers also beautifully have been given over here. So please go through all the descriptive questions. First, learn the chapter, revise it. Learning has been done. You have done a revisionary session also with me. Now your homework will be just to sit and just read this chapter once again and try doing a writing practice, children. The more and more you'll write, the answers are there in front of you. So refer to all the MCQs, all the descriptive questions, and write it the answers with your own hand. You will never be able to forget. So I'm here for one more minute. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask your doubts. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. And thank you so much, the students who have written wonderful comments. I'm glad you have enjoyed the session, children. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, we are done for the day. Even those who are with us on the portal. Yes, Ms. Ritu, Om Gupta, Divyanshi Garg. All right. So no doubts, children. So please revise this chapter nicely. Cost audit bhi अच्छे से एक बारी आपने पढ़ना है. NFRA part should be given a fair reading and all the descriptive questions should be done. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Khushbu, Khushi, all of you. Thank you, children. Sir, we are done with the session. All right. Thank you so much, sir.